Hi folks, Mr. Ackerman here. Thanks for watching. In today's episode of Great Work, we're going to feature some of the excellent photos that were submitted for special assignment number 3, frozen photography. You were asked to choose objects and freeze them and then photograph them within a block of ice. And this meant you had to light them a certain way, and you had to compose your photo a certain way, and you had to pay attention to things like the sharpness especially in order to capture all the interesting details. So lots of great photos were submitted. For anyone who submitted a photo and followed all of the requirements, which included a written submission, you are featured on our website. So let's take a quick peek there. It's in Frozen Photography under Special Assignments, and you'll see there's lots and lots of photos here. When you click on them, you're going to find out who the photographer was, and you're also going to see the title of their image. What I did was I chose a bunch of these that I wanted to feature. I'm going to open them up in Lightroom, where it's a little bit easier for me to quickly run through photos and give you some of my thoughts on editing and whatnot. You have access to Lightroom through Adobe's generous program that allows us to use their apps for free during this lockdown. So let's jump into Lightroom. Here we go. Here are the photos in a sort of thumbnail grid. And right now I'm going to jump to the first one. So this is from Colin Lynch, and what I'm going to do now to avoid having this distraction of me, I'm going to pull myself off to the side there, and I'm going to just have you concentrate on what's here. So what Colin did was he froze some pine needles, I think they're actually cedar leaves, and some twigs inside the ice, but he wrote in his submission that he had trouble with freezing. He kept finding that the ice was cracking, and he poured some hot water over it, and it created these interesting cracks. I really, really like this photo because to me it looks like the leaves are actually frozen in what appears like cracked stone of some sort. That's the idea I get from it, and it makes me think, wow, you've got like, I can imagine these leaves on trees growing maybe in Algonquin Provincial Park as an example, and if you've ever been out there, there's all of those rock formations that are very common in northern Ontario, and the tone here and the color just reminded me of that. I think he did a great job here. My only suggestion would be maybe increase the exposure a bit. Get this mountain graph thing that you see here kind of in the middle. We didn't really talk about this before the school year was put on hold the way it was. And so just for now, this is called a histogram. Just adjust your brightness so it's kind of in the middle of the box here. Another thing he could do is maybe add a little bit of contrast to see how that's starting to bring out the leaves. And if he wanted, he could go to the HSL sliders, and he could play around with different colors, like see what happens when you increase or decrease the brightness of the yellows and the greens. He'll get different effects, but whatever he wants to do, I think it's a great photo to begin with, so way to go, Colin. Let's move on, and this next one is from Grace, and what she did was she froze little figurines, little furniture figurines, and I think this is just a really, really cool image because it makes me think of older furniture. So let's try to imagine a house or something from way back. I'm looking at the furniture here in this sink or this washing machine, maybe the 1940s or something, and maybe an abandoned house, frozen in time. Instead of cobwebs, though, which would accumulate in this kind of building, you've got the ice. And the lighting is just soft enough to really reveal some of the details in the ice without causing too many harsh reflections. There's a bit of a harsh reflection here, but it's not too bad. And if she were to adjust the angle of the ice block to the window light that's coming in, I think you could probably control that further. Putting it on this tabletop, which has the same texture and look as a floor would, means that she's basically turned her tabletop here into a floor, which would make sense if you were looking at furniture. And the only criticism I really have here is I wasn't crazy about the background here, which is part of the room she's in. So if we could get that somehow under control by moving the desk around, or even by putting a backdrop of some sorts, even if it's a black towel or blanket, something to just control what I'm seeing there, I think this could go to the next level. I'd also probably crop out a little bit at the side here, but very nicely done, Grace. Good work. Next image is from Tyra Goldfarb, And the reason I wanted to show you this one was because he wrote about how he accidentally broke the ice. And I've had this problem too. You drop it by accident and then it breaks. But when it breaks, it's actually created its own little image here with the cracks. The lines are really interesting here, and you can use those cracks to tell a story. You know, maybe it's meant to indicate broken hopes or dreams or something like that. One criticism I do have, and Tyler, you can maybe decide what you want to do about this, is because it's lit from the top, we have this harsh reflection here, which you could clone that out. There's a way to get rid of that fairly easily in Photoshop or Lightroom. But what you can also do is, and this of course only works before you've cracked the ice, is not to put it down on the ground and front light it, but hold it up to a window so that the light is coming from the back and making everything glow. So anyway, it was a happy mistake to break it. I think it looks pretty cool. I might just go into the crop mode here and perhaps just crop out a bit of that background so that all I'm seeing is the flowers and the ice and not the what appears to be a driveway or a roadway. Okay, but anyway, good work there, Tyler. Next up, we have Ellie, who I really like what she did here with these warm tones in an ice situation. So you have that nice contrast, the warmth of the light here, and the this amber color and the leaf, which to me looks like it would be an autumn leaf, and it's frozen. So you've got that juxtaposition there of warm and cold. Very good. The way that she kind of controlled her background with, I guess this is a blanket or something, that's good. I like the window in the background. Somehow it just seems to work with that warm-cold theme. And finally, I can tell by this very cool white light that she's backlit the block of ice using that light, which is exactly what I recommended you guys do. Give your ice blocks some backlighting to cause them to glow, and you're going to get some interesting results. My only criticism is this really strong highlight through the middle. Not sure if that's because there's actually a crack in the leaf that's letting light through, or maybe the light is bouncing around in the ice. If there was a way to move the light around and maybe get rid of this, that would probably be my main recommendation. But nice work there, Ellie. Moving along, Austin, he did something no one else did, which is he put the object to be frozen inside a water bottle, and the results are kind of cool because of the shape of the water bottle. So the only suggestion I have here is the following. If I zoom in, see all the great little detail that's in there? That's what I wanted him to focus on. When I saw this photo here, I thought, oh, if only he got closer. And also, I wasn't crazy about I'm thinking this is carpet. So watch, let's go into the crop here. Let's rotate this around a little bit so the top of the water bottle is parallel with the frame. And now let's pull this up a bit to eliminate the carpet. We'll keep the black background. I think he did a great job of controlling the background by using something very dark. We'll hit enter, and now maybe just a little bit more cropping down. And by the way, if you want to be able to change the aspect ratio, in other words, not have your crop window locked into a certain length and width ratio, you just do that. And now look, we can move all the way throughout this and see some really cool details. So great work, Austin. Continue experimenting with that. Freeze in different containers, different shaped water bottles or whatever. You're going to get some cool results. Moving along, Malik. Excellent work here. Malik did just like Ellie did with the backlighting, and look at how those flowers are glowing. Really, really fantastic results here. My main suggestion is the use of space. I'd like to see him eliminate all this negative space. So watch, we're going to go crop, and we're going to bring that right down, and watch what happens if I just get rid of all of that background that doesn't really have to do with flowers so much, or leaves. Look at that. Isn't that cool? He's done exactly what I asked for. Get the backlighting going so that the leaves actually start glowing and taking on a whole life of their own. Really neat detail, lots of fun to look at this photo. Maybe go a little bit further and completely eliminate whatever that is. And there we go. You got a really cool photo there that could be printed and put up somewhere. Good work, Malik. Moving on, this is Samantha from, I think, period 4 class, I think. And I love what happened here. She's taken a whole bunch of different kinds of fruit. She's frozen them. She's clearly lit them from behind. And this looks like a dessert that you could just dig into. There's great detail. There's lots of nice color in there. She can even go and do the following. Go to the HSL sliders, pick luminance, which is brightness, and then if you look at these are strawberries, I think, so they're red, so I'm going to bump up the brightness of those. And look, they start, you don't want to go too far, but they start to pop out a little bit more. And you can also look, these are probably lemons, or maybe they're oranges, I can't tell. There we go, we can bring that up a little bit. And if we go back to here and maybe increase the clarity, now we get to see the bubbles a bit more. And if I hit the reset button, you see where we started, and if I hit the undo, see where we got to. So there's a lot that you guys can do with your editing in terms of bringing out detail. Think about the colors, think about the contrast, think about the crop and the use of space. All right, moving on. Noam, great work here. Look at the detail. He's frozen some fruit in the block of ice, and if I zoom in here, look at that. There's an insane level of detail because he got the camera really close. I call that fill the frame with what you want. Get close. Don't include anything in the frame that you don't want. And when you do that, everything in the photo is captured by a larger number of pixels on your camera's sensor, and so you get to zoom in more. You get crazy amounts of detail. He really captured the details here. The colors are punchy. The lighting is good. Great work, Noam. Moving along, Makai. I love this photo. There's something really, really otherworldly about it. I actually feel like I'm lying up sort of on my back at the bottom of a pond, let's say, and looking up at the light, and there's flowers and vegetation floating on top, and you're looking up toward the light. This is really cool and dreamy, and the same thing that I mentioned a little while ago, I'm going to mention here. Let's do something with these colors. Let's bring up the red, okay, and let's bring up some of the yellow and some of the orange, and see what just happened there. Here's the on-off button for what I just did, okay? So I'm bringing up all that. Maybe even the green would help. There we go. You can play around with that. Actually, I think I might bring the green down a bit. And then back up here, do a little bit more with overall exposure, a little bit with the clarity, and you can play around with that. Compare it by hitting reset. That's where we started. Just bring out a little bit more detail with those changes I showed you. Great work, Makai. Zahida also did a great job of freezing flowers. I liked her arrangement here. Is why I wanted to point this out to you. You've got the background smaller flowers, and then this one dominant flower cutting across the middle and reaching up a little bit higher than the others. Really nicely laid out. Two things to point out here. One, I can see from the background that it's up against some tiles. So the drawback of that is that Zahida obviously has this either on the floor or leaning up against a wall, maybe in the bathroom. That means you can't really backlight it very easily. So it's got to be front lit, and that's why you have all these highlights that are reflecting back into the camera. And they may or may not be desirable. I'm not a huge fan of them. I prefer the backlighting approach. But if you feel that for whatever reason you have to lie it against the surface of the tiles and light it from the front, then Zahida, at least just hit the crop button and bring this down. I don't really want to see those tiles because they're not really part of the overall story. So how about something like that? Now we've isolated everything and we don't know that we're in a bathroom or whatever. We just have a nice photo with no distractions. Great work overall, though. Really nice composition. Very simple and effective. And moving on, this is the last one. This is from Ashley Ma. She did a great job of creating this dreamlike composition with these flowers that are frozen. And what I'd like to show you is the following. It's up to her if she wants to do this, but bring the clarity up a bit and things start to stand out. Bring the highlights and the whites up a little bit, and at the same time, black level down. Play around a little bit with exposure and decide where you want to go, and you've got yourself a much punchier photo than a moment ago. If you hit the reset button, you see where we started. If you hit undo, you see where you can get to. She can even do a little bit of cropping if she wants. That's up to her. Maybe filling the frame with a little more of the positive space and eliminating some of the negative space. Really nice job here, Ashley. Keep up the great work. Anyway, that is it for now. Thank you for everything you submitted. I look forward to seeing more of your work, and I hope you guys are staying safe. Miss you guys. Look forward to seeing you at some point in the future, and until later, bye for now.